G'day guys, my name's Nick. Now you might have seen a video we shared on the Kamp Kenan Army channel a couple of months ago featuring Slug, our inland taipan, who's obviously the most venomous snake on earth. So today, I thought I'd show you this fella here, the eastern brown snake, who's the second most venomous snake on earth. Now, while this guy might come in place number 2 after the inland taipan in terms of who's the most toxic, this guy does, however, come ahead as far as how dangerous he is to people. You might have heard me say in the last video that the inland taipan, despite being the most venomous snake on the planet, has never killed a human being. In fact, bites are incredibly rare and they're almost always taking place in captivity. The eastern brown snake, on the other hand, is the leading cause of snakebite in Australia. Now, despite what some people will tell you, this statistic is not the result of how aggressive brown snakes are, as much of the fact that their distribution overlaps with humans. The inland taipan, of course, lives in the middle of nowhere and very rarely comes across people, which is why all those bites generally happen in captivity. The eastern brown snake, on the other hand, is found up the entire east coast of Australia, covering several capital and other major cities, and even into southern parts of Papua New Guinea. So they overlap with millions and millions of people. On top of that, within this distribution, they're certainly willing to share that range with human beings. These guys as adults are primarily rodent eaters, and it means that these guys are known to come into homes and suburban areas, and that's where bites are most likely to take place, where people don't really expect snakes and they're not using the same level of caution that you should do out in the bush. Now, it's actually this love of mice, this rodent eating lifestyle, that has led this guy to become as venomous as he is. Because I've said to a lot of people, the way that we measure toxicity is not to do with people, it's basically how little venom does it take injected into a mouse in a laboratory to kill that test subject. So naturally, species of snakes like this fella, who live entirely off mice, are going to have venom that works very well on a test that involves how efficiently can they kill mice. If we did this study on frogs, for instance, things like tiger snakes here in Australia and red bellies and all sorts of other frog-eating species around the world would be further up the top 10 list than these guys, the browns and the taipans, who are mouse specialists, particularly as adults. An interesting side note, however, about how diet and venom overlap with each other is the fact that we now know that the eastern brown snake and several other species around the world, their venom changes as they age. In juvenile brown snakes, which are largely eating things like lizards and small skinks and these sorts of things, they have a largely neurotoxic venom. It's basically designed to paralyze their prey so they can get it down before it gets away. As these guys get larger and they start to eat more and more mammalian prey, suddenly they start to develop procoagulant venom, which basically causes blood clotting and works more efficiently on mammals. So as babies, the venom's specifically designed to target reptiles, and as they grow up, they're able to eat mice and rats, and they develop this mammalian sort of venom. So it's pretty interesting, and it also puts to death the bit of a myth that baby snakes are more venomous than adults. It could be argued that as this guy grows older and eats more mammals, his venom's developed to potentially cause more damage to a human being, because of course, we're mammals. Now, despite having the title of the second most venomous snake on earth and the leading cause of snakebite in Australia, this species, along with all our other species, is only responsible for about 3 deaths a year in Australia. I don't know about other countries, but in the scheme of dangers that we face in our everyday life, this guy is certainly fairly low down. In fact, the vast majority of bites here in Australia are adult men, and they're generally people interacting with the snake. They're catching it or killing it. Accidental bites, while they do happen, are sort of the exception to the norm. The sad thing about this is it means that snake bites are really avoidable. They shouldn't have to happen, and we shouldn't have to lose 3 people a year to snake bite either. We stay away from snakes, they stay away from us. We use some common sense when we're out in the bush. We wear the proper shoes, long pants, these sorts of things, and we all learn how to do proper first aid. There's no reason anybody in Australia, or any first world developed country for that matter, should lose their life to snakebite. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed a bit of a look at the second most venomous snake on earth, and I'd like to thank, as always, Kenan and Tom for letting us share these videos. On top of that, this fellow here, while he's been part of our educational team for a couple of months now, still doesn't have a name. So if anybody has a name for a very, very venomous but classically Australian snake, please let us know. On top of that, if you would like to know more about our snakes and other Australian animals, do check us out. Our page is Wicked Wildlife. But other than that, guys, be nice to our wildlife. Have a good one and take care.